welcome to another Wartales video. So this video is going to cover a little bit of an overview of what is included in the early access release of Wartales. It's going to talk you through the different features, and I'm basically creating it to give you a little bit of information so you can make an informed decision about whether you would like to purchase the early access or not. Early access does commence on December the 1st or December the 2nd, depending on which country you live in, and as of the time of recording this video, no price has been announced. Alrighty, so I'll talk through a few things and let's see where we get to. So at the start of the early access, there are going to be 3 map regions available. Now, my estimated playtime for these 3 map regions is about 20 to 30 hours per run at this point in time. And the variance there sort of depends on the difficulty you're choosing and how many of the different things you're going to complete. There's a lot less dead space on the map than in the demo, with a whole ton of more mini locations crammed in, and each of the 3 regions that there are on release are quite large, with heaps of things to explore, from main quests, side quests, as well as some hidden secrets around the place too. I do expect that as more areas are added in, there are going to be some regions that are significantly smaller than these as well, but I actually think that's a good thing, and it's going to add to the variety of sort of how the world feels as you move around it. So looking forward to that. Okay, so I just mentioned some quests, and speaking of quests, so there is some very good variety. You can do things like finding and stopping helpless citizens who are hunting a wolf that's much too strong for them, to merchant missions where your aim is to take some trading resources from one city to another. The quests are a really good way to just keep the crowns coming in to support the party, and of course there's all the standard, go fight this party kind of quests as well, which can unlock some different weapon types. So weapon drops are a really common thing from the fighting quests as well. So the main story quests do get more complex after the first region. So the first region's quite simple in that you don't need, to carry any specific items when you're completing quests, or, go back and forth too many times to complete individual parts of the main quest. As you move through the other regions, they do get a little bit more complex, and I found it really interesting on, my second and further playthroughs, just to see the other side of the story and check out what the alternate zone finishes are like, and seeing whether there are any other little changes in the world that I notice. So for instance, finishing some of the main stories in one way or another will determine whether some shops are open or closed. So it can be good, but none are completely game changing that you really should do it one way or the other, just to give yourself certain things that are available. Okay, classes. So at release, there's going to be the same 6 classes as there was in the demo. So there's 1 ranged class, the archer, 1 mid-range class, the spearman, and 4 melee classes. Now, even though there's 4 melee classes, they do play quite differently, and I don't think it's a limitation having, more melee classes than range classes, and we'll see if this changes as the game progresses. I haven't heard any plans of additional kind of class types at this stage, and as I'll cover below, there's a fair bit of variation that exists already between them. So characters are capped at level 5 in early access at this stage. I've given a class overview in some other videos. You can check those out if you want some more information. I might try and include links below if I can figure out how to do so. I'm still pretty new to this whole video thing. Each class has 3 specs available at the beginning of the game, and spoiler, this is not the end of them. So different starting scenarios are really cool for getting the core party that you want going straight off the bat too. So you don't just get given random 4 characters at the beginning, and whilst there is no character creation, being able to choose kind of the background of your party gets you to start with a different set of classes. All of them are viable, and it really gives you just that opportunity to make sure you're getting at least a couple of the classes that you want in your party there straight off the bat. It removes a little bit of that random element that can be frustrating at the start of the game. I don't like sitting there and just hitting remake until I get what I want. Okay, so one cool little thing is that your party gets really stronger and can actually earn stat boosts, not just from leveling up, but from earning titles like Wolf Slayer or Miser. And they can gain ranks at this stage, including Captain and Lieutenant, which unlocks unique skills for them as well. So it's not just leveling, it's not just one linear way to make your party stronger. The titles, the squad ranks, that kind of thing, or just add little ways to put your own flavor onto your party. Classes are not limited to 6 skills as well. So when you first get a character and you have a look at them, there'll be 6 little skill slots. This number can actually increase, so don't feel like once you get to 6 skills on a character, that's the end of that character's progression. Okay, so party variety. I was just kind of saying, like, there's a lot of different ways that the characters can be played, and that actually leads to so many different ways to build a party as well. You can go really small elite squad, 3, 4 sort of people, and that's all, to a huge band complete with pets and ponies, and I mean, you can have over 24 characters in the party. So I haven't hit an upper limit yet, and if there is one, it is not going to be easy to hit and sustain, that's for sure. You mainly need to plan, if you do want to have a big party, around making sure that you've got enough crowns to pay people's wages, food to feed everything, and pets in particular can take quite a lot of food, and comfort. Now, comfort is a little bit of a limiter with party members, but there's a couple of ways around it to make that squad a little bit larger. So yeah, you can favor, a melee heavy composition, and if it works, you can favor a single target damage kind of build. AoE builds are totally viable, though I would say they're a little more risky because you're always running right into the middle of a big group of enemies. But even though all these compositions are possible, it doesn't mean that the fights are easy. You need to understand how to work with your companions to get the most out of them, and the Valor Point system, which brings us into combat. Okay, so combat variety. There is a really good amount of combat variety. So there's some really unique encounters, and the Valor Point system is a great way to keep the turn-based combat interesting by making your turn order and the choices matter. And it really allows for building quite a good level of squad synergy over time. As I said, there's a lot of unique encounters, and you're going to need different strategies depending on the map you're on, the enemy that you're going to be facing, and who's in your party. So you really want your party to be flexible. A few examples of the variations in fights include things like the rat fights, the arena, the tomb, and the tomb I would say is my favourite part of the game at the moment. I really love the feeling of it all. You've also got fights like the ghost pack, as well as each of the champions, and so there's one champion per region right now, and they also boast a unique skill set which gives you something new to deal with. And they provide legendary weapons as rewards, so they're good ones to take out when you can. There has been a little bit of, discussion around the fact that there's no height variation in combat. So those of you familiar with Battle Brothers, when you're standing on the higher things, you get extra range, extra damage, that kind of stuff. So archers can't stand on a rise in Wartales. However, positioning is really important still, and squad mates can back each other up quite well. So I didn't really feel like the height advantage was that much of a limitation, and there's other ways to increase your range through things like starting skills that they can begin with, or trinkets that they can equip as well. So if you are after trying to get a longer range character, there's ways around that. Party variety also becomes quite important and different because different weapons provide different skill options. So you do want to try to kind of line the weapons that you're equipping your party with the skills that you want to choose on your character. And when you hit that really sweet spot of getting the weapons and the skills that all support each other, it can feel really nice when it all comes together. All right, difficulties and tuning. So there's 3 difficulties on release: easy, medium, and hard. Now, in my opinion, hard is not quite tuned up enough just yet. I think once you get a few legendary items under your belt, you actually find it all right. But having said that, I'm a bit of a sadist, and I enjoy Battle Brothers on Extreme. Now, Wartales is less punishing than an Extreme Battle Brothers playthrough, but I also think it's a little bit more interesting because you've got more opportunity for different play styles. So even when you do put it on hard, there's not kind of a one best way to do it, and you'll be able to really kind of experiment and enjoy yourself as well. If you play on an Iron Man mode, even though one is not available, you just basically don't reload the game or restart any battles, that kind of thing, it will really increase your difficulty because there are times when you learn that you've made a mistake, but you learn a little bit late. So on easy, it's unlikely that you're really going to struggle past anything beyond maybe the initial couple of fights when your party just has no gear at all, no armor, really poor weapons. But it is still actually a really satisfying way to explore the world. So I ran a squad on easy, on medium, and on hard through the beta. The easy one was just kind of quite nice and relaxing. With the normal or medium and hard, I did have to think and plan just that little bit more occasionally with my crowns, just to make sure I had enough to pay wages and food and all that kind of stuff as well. On easy, I tended to just buy everything that I saw because I always had enough money to do so. I think that the tuning of some enemies and encounters in, battle as well as sort of around the world is likely to be modified more as the game progresses. They have already rebalanced a number based on the beta, so definitely I would say, once you're in and fighting, do provide feedback on it, because it can only make the game better if the tuning really works for people in terms of easy, medium, and hard. Okay, might move on to professions next. So professions, there's an absolute ton to do with the professions. There are currently 9 professions available on release or at release of the early access. Some of them are a little bit more active and kind of focused on gathering resources for your party, and some of them are more active in the sense that you spend resources to craft gear for your party. Or for your campsite as well. And improving your campsite is definitely one very, very satisfying experience. I've talked about how you modify your party and the party variety that you get. I actually think modifying your campsite, it feels like another party member. And once you start getting a few things in there, like your tanning racks and your beehives, your brewing kit, and the gurney, and you can start actually changing what you're feeding your party or healing your party and that sort of thing overnight, it's much more satisfying than just the campfire that you begin with. You feel like your party is progressing and being more successful in the world. Sorry, back to professions. Okay, so look, I think there's already a lot in there, and I think things like their earlier Q&As were hinting at the possibilities of tiered crafting as well, where you can get like level 1 tent and a level 2 tent and a level 3 tent, obviously providing different levels of bonus to your party. I think this kind of thing is sort of where they're heading, and they have just implemented tier 2 weapons. So the blacksmithing profession is quite huge. I think in one video I sort of showed a little bit of an overview of blacksmithing. Since then, in the beta, they've added probably another 20 or 30 recipes to it as well. And those tier 2 recipes require, a more advanced level of resource as well. So I do think that's the path they're heading down, which I really like. But even without sort of there being a full tier 1, 2, 3 system in place, I still think there's quite a lot to do with the professions as well. Professions are currently capped, very similar to the level 5 class cap at the moment. Professions are capped so that you can't actually get all the way up to a master within different professions. It doesn't actually make any difference to the gameplay. It just means that your characters can't earn a few stat points that otherwise they will have. And it hasn't actually been hard to max characters out in their professions. I think in one of my runs I had 3 characters at kind of the max profession for blacksmith, and that was without trying to do anything in particular. So you can definitely cap people out without too much problem, but and it doesn't feel like a limitation at this point. Okay, so bugs. All right, this is probably something most people are keen on hearing about. What sort of state is the game in? If you buy it and load it up, is it actually going to work? So yes, is the short answer. So most, if not all, of the larger bugs have been worked through in the closed beta. We've had some really, really active testers. So look, a really big shout out to all the people who've put time into playing the game and reporting the bugs. It's been absolutely amazing seeing the engagement that people have had with it. However, I won't guarantee that it's going to be bug free. So there might be some smaller bugs, and I mean, look, Shiro, very similar to other games that I've tested with them, they will change a lot of things through early access. So you're going to see changes come in that may even possibly break save game files. So don't necessarily expect that if you purchase the early access, you're going to be able to use the same party for 12 months. You're likely to encounter some smaller things as you go, like, I don't know, finding an item or a skill described in French instead of English or your native language. Or maybe a skill that when you try to use it, it crashes the game and you just have to skip using that skill for a little while. However, there's other small things as well, maybe like tooltip text or damage numbers not displaying correctly, but otherwise working as intended. So there's the potential for lots of those sorts of things in the game. Hopefully the things like corrupting save files is not going to happen very, very often. The worst that happened in the early access was they changed one of the names of a class, and if you tried to go into the skills for that class, you would freeze your game. As long as there's not, too many giant things like that, and you could get around that by kicking the character out and just hiring a new one. As long as there's not too many things like that, I do think it'll be quite smooth through the process though. Okay, so look, in summary, my recommendation is that it's a really solid game. As I said, it's ready for 20 to 30 hours of enjoyment for a single run, but it is still early days and there's a lot more to come. So if you're after a really final, polished experience with all the regions, all the everything done and dusted, you should probably wait. Once it's finished, there's going to be an absolutely huge world to explore, and hopefully not as many bugs to worry about by that stage either. But the content right now is definitely not even comparable to the demo. I don't even want to try to say it's 2 or 3 or 4 times bigger. It just blows the demo out of the water, and has been really, really good fun to play around with and test. So thank you very much, Shiro, for the opportunity to do some closed beta testing. Look, I truly hope if you do decide to bite the bullet and get the game, that you enjoy it as much as me, and you muck around and try a whole lot of different things. Just don't get too attached to any particular party members, because you may lose them at different points in time, and sometimes that can hurt a little bit more than you might look for. Alright, that's CAG, over and out. Enjoy.